her growing up on a reservation as a Native American, and what does that mean? What does growing up on a reservation mean? Have no idea. So I think she's going to share that tonight, and then just her story of how this beautiful, amazing woman came to be. So my friend, Amy Ketchum.
For my father to make it big enough in the business world, and he owned a construction company. That was a family trade, right? And so him and all of his brothers were in construction, and my dad made enough money that we didn't have to live on the reservation. We didn't have to live down a dirt road in a home that had dirt for flooring, get food dropped off to us by the county or by the reservation every month at the first of the month, right? So that was huge for my dad. My dad, growing up, was always a very put-together man, very well put together, no hair out of place, sweats were ironed. It was just, that was his upbringing, okay? So for us, when my sister and I were born, we were not born into the reservation. We were kind of the lucky ones that were born off the reservation. And when I turned 5 years old, that all changed. And that changed because my mom and dad were, in a sense, betrothed because their families had moved here together. They were the same age. They had 4 boys in my dad's family, 4 girls in my mom's family, and they all grew up together, very, very close. My mom and dad were basically told, you're going to get married when you get older. So my dad married my mom when they were seniors in high school. Okay, so when my mom married my dad, she became a wife. And in our culture, that wife takes care of the house, that wife takes care of the kids, that wife does everything to honor that man. Okay, and so my mom had never worked a day in her life, never took classes in high school that mattered, because she didn't think she was ever going to do anything but be a homemaker. So when my mom and dad went through a divorce and I was 5 years old, my mom was left with a situation where she got 2 wonderful, amazing kids and a work truck that was in my dad's fleet. Now, how those details worked out, none of my business, still don't know, still don't care, okay? But what I do know is that my mom could not afford to live off the reservation. So that was a huge shocker, because when I was up until 5, there were Jaguars in my driveway, there was nice trucks, there was nice this, and then all of a sudden it was, we're moving back to the reservation. This is where our people are from. This is where you should be growing up anyways. And so we had dirt floors. We had doors that barely locked. We had a school bus stop in Alpine that was about 2 miles from our front door. And there was no other bus stop. So we walked to the bus stop, those of us that attended school, by the way, because on the reservation, there is not, it's a sovereign nation for one, so you kind of don't have to abide by all the laws that we do out here. So there was 4 of us that I can fully remember that went to school every day. And that was me, my sister up until about high school, and then our friend Blue and another child. And so we would all walk to to where the bus stop was. I remember having, the holes in my shoes. I had hand-me-downs that were hand-me-downs that were hand-me-downs that were hand-me-downs. And we lived in Alpine. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with California or San Diego or even San Diego County, but Alpine is a predominantly wealthier area. So the socioeconomic gap for us was huge. We had the reservation with dirt floors, and then you had $1 million homes, and that was the difference.
In my career, both as a banker and working in retail, and that's when you're trying to communicate to the adults and they don't speak English, you go to their children. And so there's a lot more to Ceci's story, but I know I'd like you to touch on that, as what is it like as a child to be the interpreter of adult conversations for your parent? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn. And it's good to be with all of you. And my name is Cecilia Mendivil. I go by Ceci, which rhymes with Jesse. And I'm a native San Diego San Diego. I was born and raised in National City. And my parents are from Sonora, Mexico. And they came across like in 1950. I have a lot of brothers and sisters. The three oldest were born in Mexico. I was born on this side. And my mom never learned English. My dad, interestingly enough, he was raised on both sides of the border, so he spoke English. And so when he came here, he was able to get a blue-collar job, and you know, my parents knew how to save, and they had a house. They, took care of their kids. And what would happen is, it's like each one of the kids had the job of being with mom to interpret for her. And somehow, once the older ones were out of the house, married, or like my two oldest brothers were in the service, they did go to Vietnam, it fell on me, and it stayed with me pretty much the rest of her life, and and I took care of her. And one of the hardest things was being a little girl, 4, 5, 6 years old, and I would go to the store, and I was just like her little right hand. And my dad, the way he supported our family, he worked for Mayfair Markets, and so we'd always go to Mayfair. And whether it was a store that my dad worked at or another one, he got transferred a lot, my mom felt safe there. But it invariably would happen where she would need to ask a question, and there would be an awkward situation where a very tall Anglo man would end up leaning down into her face and kind of shouting, because she would stutter and she kind of knew a little bit of broken English. She would just be overwhelmed. And, it was just would rapidly accelerate into this place of my mom's in trouble and she needs help. And so me being who I was, I would jump in and almost like divert the attention and start sharing and asking questions. And he'd like look away and look at me. And I could see that relief on his face, or usually it was a man, but it was like, oh good, she speaks English. But then there was like no recognition of how his behavior and how he was acting was affecting my mom. And so I learned to just take the heat and kind of divert the attention, because it really hurt to see my mom confused. And I was joking before we started about being the deer in the headlights, because that's what I saw. I saw my mom just afraid, and I would step in.
I thank Universal Spirit Center for being a place that is open to explore stories of racism, to explore the uncomfortableness. And with both of you ladies, you shared your heart, and we need to have that. We need to have more of that so that we can have those conversations. So I'm really grateful and thankful for that, and for Carolyn bringing all of her friends in. I love that. And you've got some great friends. Wow, great night.